My name is Lila. I'm 21 years old. And I have to say this out loud before it chokes me completely. I'm divorced, and I have a baby no one knows about. Even writing that sentence in my head makes my chest tighten. Not because I regret my baby, God, no, but because saying it out loud means admitting how I got here. And that's the part one still can't quite forgive myself for. When I married Andrew, I thought I'd found safety. That was the word I kept using with my friends back then, safe. He was steady, calm, patient where I was impulsive and passionate. He knew how to slow me down, how to hold me when I spiraled, how to ground me when I felt like I was floating too far away from myself. There was this sense of being chosen, like no matter how loud or messy I got, he'd stay. And for a long time, he did. Those first few years, they were soft and golden. Mornings felt like ours alone, with coffee in mismatched mugs and his hand always finding the small of my back as I cooked breakfast. I can still remember the first apartment we shared, the way he'd wrap himself around me on that tiny couch, his lips brushing my neck as we watched movies, his laugh muffled in my hair. Even sex back then wasn't just sex. It was slow and consuming and left me feeling wanted. Completely wanted. But somewhere along the way, that version of us slipped quietly out the back door. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It's little things, isn't it? A kiss that feels like a reflex instead of a need. A hug where his hands stay flat on your back instead of pressing you closer. Cuddling in bed, but his body already turned away, like the space between you doesn't need to be bridged anymore. I told myself it was normal. That long-term relationships evolve. That comfort replaces urgency. That love doesn't always feel like fireworks, sometimes it's just steady. But then the steadiness started to feel like stillness. Like we weren't growing, weren't reaching for each other anymore, we were just existing side by side. I tried to fix it in my own quiet ways. New lingerie. Date nights I planned that he canceled at the last minute because work ran late. I'd kiss him in the kitchen, long and deliberate, but he'd pull away with a distracted smile and a half-mumbled, "You taste like coffee." I wanted to scream at him, "That's the point. Kiss me like you mean it." Instead, I swallowed my frustration and convinced myself that maybe this is just what marriage becomes. And yet, there were moments that left me raw, almost humiliated in their subtle cruelty. Like the night I curled into him in bed, my bare legs draped over his, craving the smallest sign that he still wanted me. He didn't move. Didn't pull me closer. Just lay there stiff and silent, his breathing deep and even, like I wasn't even there. That's when I started losing myself. I became quieter, smaller, afraid of making him feel pressured or guilty for not meeting me where I was. I stopped sharing the big, wild feelings in my chest. Stopped asking for more because I was scared that his answer, if he gave one, would be no. And then came that moment. It was a Saturday morning in late October. The air was cold and sharp, the kind that makes you want to burrow under blankets forever. I woke up to sunlight spilling across our bedroom and turned over to wrap myself around him, like I always used to. But the bed was empty. He was in the kitchen, I could hear the low hum of the coffee machine, but for some reason, I didn't follow him. I just sat there in the rumpled sheets, staring at his side of the bed, and it hit me with this brutal, breathtaking clarity. I couldn't remember the last time I felt truly seen by him. Not loved. Seen. That was the moment I knew something had changed. And that I couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel it. Andrew is a doctor. I should start there, because that explains a lot, at least that's what I used to tell myself. His life has always been a series of 12-hour shifts, late-night emergency calls, and the constant buzzing of a phone that seems more important than anything else. I used to admire it. I loved watching him pull on his scrubs at dawn, hair still damp from the shower, the faint smell of his cedarwood cologne mixing with hospital antiseptic. It made me proud, knowing he was out there saving lives. But somewhere in the chaos of his schedule, I think he forgot I had one too. Last Thursday was a perfect example. I'd been working from home all day, running on 2 hours of sleep because our daughter, God, that feels strange to even say, kept me up half the night kicking against my ribs. Back then, no one knew about her but me. I'd spent the afternoon writing articles for a client that barely paid me enough to make it worth it, doing laundry, grocery shopping, everything to keep our little life functional. By the time he walked in, I was exhausted but hopeful. He came through the door at 8:37 p.m., smelling like hand sanitizer and hospital coffee. I was curled on the couch in his old sweatshirt, deliberately waiting up for him. "Hey, you," he said softly, and kissed me. It should have felt good. It should have felt like home. But it didn't. It felt automatic. Like he kissed me out of habit, not hunger. "I made dinner," I said, motioning toward the kitchen where pasta sat in 2 bowls. "Babe," he groaned, dropping his bag by the door. "I grabbed something on the way home. I didn't want to bother you. Didn't want to bother me." As if I didn't spend an hour trying to make something that would taste like normalcy, like us. Instead of saying that, I just smiled and said, "Oh. Okay." He collapsed beside me on the couch, his long fingers brushing my thigh. "You smell nice," he murmured, leaning in to kiss my neck. And here's where I wish I could say I melted into him. I wish I could say that his touch sparked something in me. But the truth? It made me stiffen. It wasn't that I didn't want him. I did. But I needed something first. I needed him to see me, to ask how my day was, to notice the dinner I made, to acknowledge that I had been waiting for him like someone desperate for scraps of affection. Instead, he cupped my face and kissed me harder, like he could bulldoze past the distance growing between us. Like his hands on me could replace his words. "Andrew," I whispered, pulling back just slightly. He frowned. "What's wrong? How do you answer that? How do you say, 'I don't want your body right now'? I want your attention. I want to feel like more than an afterthought you come home to after fixing everyone else's emergencies." "I'm just tired," I said instead. A lie. He sighed and leaned back, his arms slipping off the couch like the weight of me was too heavy to hold. That's when the silence started. It's amazing how quickly a moment can sour. 1 second, we're on the couch, his hand on my thigh. The next, I'm folding into myself, wondering if I've just rejected him, if I've made him feel like I don't want him. And I hate that, how I can be angry at him for not meeting my needs, but also guilty for making him feel unwanted. This is the cycle we kept falling into. He tried to love me with his hands, but I needed his heart first. And every time I pulled away, he felt rejected, and every time he felt rejected, he withdrew more. Later that night, I heard him in the kitchen, rifling through the fridge. I thought about going in there, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind, whispering I'm sorry even though I wasn't. But I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, hand resting over my belly. For the first time, I wondered if our love was just muscle memory now, his kisses, my responses, all of it an old routine we performed because neither of us knew how to stop. And deep down, I wondered, if he can't even see me anymore, what will happen when he sees her? Saturday night. That's when it hit me how far we'd drifted, not during a fight, not during some grand argument about our marriage, but in the quiet moments where he thought he was loving me and I felt like I was disappearing. We were in the kitchen, of all places. I was rinsing dishes, my hands covered in suds, when I felt him come up behind me. His arms snaked around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "Hey," he murmured, his voice soft and low. "You've been on your feet all day. Let me take care of you tonight." He kissed the curve of my neck. Once. Twice. His lips warm against my skin. And I froze. Not outwardly, I knew how to play my part. I tilted my head slightly, forced a soft sound in my throat like I liked it. But inside? My body felt like a locked door. Because I didn't want that. I wanted him to turn me around, look me in the eyes, and ask me how I was. To notice that I'd been quiet all evening, that my back ached from standing too long, that I hadn't eaten dinner because I wasn't hungry for food, I was hungry for him to actually see me. Instead, his hand slipped lower, tracing over my hips. "Andrew," I said, sharper than I meant to. He pulled back slightly, blinking. "What?" I sighed, rinsing the last plate like it was the most important thing in the world. "I'm tired." "Okay?" His brow furrowed. "Tired." He said it like it was code for something else. "Claire, you've been tired for weeks." "What's going on?" There it was, the question I thought I wanted. But instead of relief, I felt exposed. Defensive. "I told you. Work's been a lot." "You don't even leave the house," he said. Not cruelly, but with that Dr. Logic voice that makes everything sound like a diagnosis. I dried my hands and turned to face him. "Thanks for the reminder." He rubbed his forehead, exhaling hard. "That's not what I meant." "I know," I said quietly, wrapping my arms around myself. For a long second, neither of us moved. Then he stepped closer, cupping my cheek with his hand, his thumb brushing against my skin. It should have felt intimate. Safe. But all I could think was, here it comes. He's going to kiss me like this is foreplay, not comfort. And I hated myself for being right. His lips met mine, gentle at first, then pressing harder like he was searching for something in me I couldn't give. My chest burned with this mix of guilt and rage, because I wanted to want him. I wanted to melt into the kiss, to remember how good it felt to be desired. But all I felt was cornered. I pulled back first. "Andrew. Please. Not right now." His jaw tightened. "I'm just trying to be close to you, Claire. You keep pushing me away." "I'm not," I started, but stopped. What was I going to say? That closeness to me didn't mean his hands? That I needed him to connect with me before touching me? That I felt like he wanted my body but not me? I shook my head. Can we not?" He stepped back, hands falling uselessly to his sides. "Sure," he said, flat, and walked out of the kitchen. I stood there alone, clutching the dish towel like it was holding me together, hating how quickly a kiss could turn into another wall between us. And in my head, the same bitter thought kept looping over and over, why does everything have to turn into sex? Her name is Lila. The first time I held her, the hospital room went silent. Not literally, there were still beeping monitors, nurses